What do you guys think? How are you guys doing?
Should we start over?
It's been a while.
Should we? No, I mean, should we start the whole podcast over? I'm saying
Yeah,
like
go
start
ahead. You
now.
start it.
Coen Brothers episode 1 right now.
This is Auteur Detour, wherein three film lovers travel through the filmographies of cinema's most important directors in hopes of finding a greater understanding on the other side.
Let's try again. Hi, this is Auteur Detour. This is Travis. I'm here with Ian
Hi, it's
and
Ian.
Chris.
Hey, film friends. Welcome back.
I know. We said this was we were done. We didn't want to talk to you guys anymore, but we can't hold it in. We have nothing better to do than to grouse and
Chris, take this. Take three, Chris.
It's not for them anyway. It's just for us. I mean, it's just for us. It's not about them. Let's go. Let's do this.
Do you want to try, Chris? I like my
Chris,
intro, but yeah, we don't have anything better to do than
I'm
to
just kidding.
yeah, get on here and talk about the state of movies because, frankly, the world of cinema is in disarray without our opinions. You know, that's how I feel about it anyway. We need to lay down the law.
Mostly, I just will watch a movie, and I'll text you guys about it sometimes. But we watch such, we don't always watch the same movies when we're not doing Auteur Detour. Chris especially doesn't watch almost any movies these days
Man.
because he's so busy. So, I'll text you, but then I'll be like, oh, no spoilers for Chris, so I got a sidebar with Travis, and then we'll text a little bit. But we just haven't talked about movies with each other, and I personally miss it. So.
I just love hearing
Let's
you guys
do
go
it.
back and forth about your civil disagreements between these things. So I'm just here for the lulls. That and my
The laws.
and my periodic interjections of the three movies I watched in 2023. So
Which one of
Stoked to
them
do
we
it.
covered for like an hour and a half already.
yeah.
How do we want to start? I mean, what do you guys think about this year in movies? I have some sort of grand thoughts about why this year felt different a little bit, but Travis?
Well, I mean, this year was kind of exciting to me because every once in a while you get like a year where a couple of major artists or artists that you follow come out with films, and this year for me personally was kind of monumental. It was Wes Anderson, Christopher Nolan, Martin Scorsese, just to name a few, and then
Miyazaki.
other Hayao Miyazaki, other people like Alexander Payne and even Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig. Just people I'm fans of to a pretty serious degree, or at least whose work I really am interested in, all coming out with a movie on the same year. This is the stars were definitely aligned to make an incredible year of movies, and for the most part it was, I would say. But I kind of feel like it's such a weird, we're in a really weird era of movies where the general quality of everything just seems so low for me personally that I don't feel like it really felt like, there's a phrase you hear sometimes on the internet, like movies are back, baby. And it's people keep saying this like they're trying to convince themselves, and that is not
it's every single movie that actually gets an audience to come out and see it. They're like, God damn it, we're back.
Yeah,
They
and it-
really want it to be
Exactly.
like the golden age.
because they're
Yeah.
not as good as they're kind of
They're
made
not
out
as
to
good.
be. You know what I
And
mean?
That's my big take on this year, is that for me it's less about how good the movies were, although I do think that there were some great filmmakers making solid efforts this year. But it's more about that the culture at large sort of rejected the shitty movies that have been coming out for 10 years and embraced the sort of auteur movies that have been coming out. I was looking at the list of the superhero movies and the blockbusters that came out this year, and they all are just, they didn't even exist in a lot of ways. You know, there's like
Yeah.
Blue Beetle and the Marvels and like these movies that like nobody saw. You know what I mean? Like,
Seriously.
and you know, I mean, the list goes
Argyle?
on. It's like Argyle, yeah. I mean, there's like critical pans too, but like even in just the ones that 5 years ago would have had a solid like, you know, fucking $billion thing, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or The Flash or Transformers Rise of the Beast. Like these movies open to nobody. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like that's the real story of 2023 was like that did nothing. But Barbie and Oppenheimer like took over the world, you know? And like not just those ones, but like The Holdovers was in theaters for fucking 14 weeks or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
it's like they really like audiences have kind of been like, no, we're back to wanting something.
No, I
substance
did some
or whatever.
research, and actually, you know, Barbie was based on a previously existing property. There was a doll called Barbie.
Are you
So that they're not all like unique stories by like, you know, I don't know, like storytellers trying to like craft real cinema. But I mean, Barbie compared to the kind of stuff that has been coming out is it definitely qualifies as a real movie.
I think just as like the story that Barbie's telling, you know, we'll talk about Barbie more and like what we think of it, but like it definitely feels less like a Transformers and more like a, I don't know, like big budget Clueless or something. You know, like it's like sort of like a more of an indie movie with a
It felt like a real movie. Well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say indie movie, but yeah, and Clueless isn't really an indie movie, but they
I just mean like not the kind of like tentpole movie that you
Right.
that, you know, would normally make $1 billion in the summer.
not like a 2020s movie.
Chris, what did you see? Let's hear it.
Okay, yeah, not a lot, but I saw it in theaters. I saw Oppenheimer, obviously. Then I watched Barbie. I watched a couple kids' movies like Elemental and Wish. But I actually just got to go see American Fiction, which I realized came out last year, and I just saw Poor Things. Speaking of a year of auteurs, right? Like Jonathan Glazer. I love that guy. I wish
Yes.
I still haven't seen
I
Zone
know.
of Interest, but anything that guy puts out, I'm like, what the hell is this going to be? What is this? I still love Sexy Beasts. I just like watched that just for Ben Kingsley. He's amazing in that movie.
I love
You
that
know,
movie.
so I'm really intrigued to see this movie. But yeah, again, not very
Did
many
I think
did I see
when I
this
first
year.
heard of Zone of Interest that they said Brian Grazer directed it? Yes, I did. I'm glad that that wasn't the case.
You know, you guys have seen Sexy Beast. Have you seen Birth?
Yeah,
No.
Birth
So
was great.
another like masterpiece, anchored by like kind of like a powerhouse performance. And like I feel like if Zone of Interest was directed by almost anybody else, I would be like, wow, that seems like a really cool experiment. I'm not gonna see it. You know what I mean? But Jonathan Glazer's movies are not only like so weird and powerful and kind of eerie and otherworldly, but he really anchors them with like amazing acting. And the older I get, the more I realize like it's really the performances and dialogue that like brings me back to movies. And just for that fact, and the fact that the woman in the movie is the, you know, Oscar-nominated actress from Anatomy of a Fall, and who's also in I think Tony Erdmann. I think it's the same woman who's in that. Just has me really, really intrigued. And you know who? I mean, a lot of people are talking about Zone of Interest and saying how powerful it is and unique. Steven Spielberg said it's the best movie since Schindler's List, which is sort of like a weird thing for him to say, but especially because like conceptually they're such opposite movies.
Right.
But our guy Alfonso Cuarón also said like this is like maybe the most important movie of like this decade or something like that in terms of
Wow.
the subject matter and the kind of the way the story was told. So, which makes sense,
Wow.
right? With the long takes is.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is a good time to say it. I have a bunch of blind spots this year that I have not seen, that being one of them. Also, Poor Things is another one I didn't see. That's making all these sort of, you know, conversations, basically.
But don't
And
worry,
American
just because
Fiction,
we
I
haven't seen something doesn't mean we can't
Doesn't mean we
talk
won't
about
weigh
it.
in
Doesn't
on
mean we
it.
can't rate it. So we should just go through the films and just give our basic thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to go through just the whole list of best pictures, or where should we begin?
Well, I think, I mean, I listed. I want to go through at least my top 5 movies of the year,
Okay.
which they aren't all listed in the best pictures. So we can do the best pictures also. But like I said, we haven't seen them all. But
What you got?
Boy and the Heron. Can we start with Boy and the Heron?
Oh, Miyazaki. No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean there's something about watching one of his movies that's like it's not homework at all. It's like incredibly powerful, but it's like going to a museum, Like you
do you
have to
mean?
be sort of like in the mood to like let it completely overpower you in a way that you don't have to for like most Disney movies, or just because they're so, I mean, this one to me like moved me to tears, and it was so like visually powerful that I couldn't like, I mean, it was just like it was a one of a kind movie experience for me. And I waited a long time to see it. Like I'd heard Travis sort of rave about it, and I have other friends that were raving about it, and I was like, yeah, of course it's going to be good. Like he's always good. And then I went to it and I was like, this is my favorite Miyazaki movie. Like it's so powerful. And when I say it's like going to a museum, I mean like it's as fulfilling as going to a museum, but it's also like you can't just like sit back. I mean, maybe if you're high, you can just sort of sit back and let it take over for you, but it's more like, there is a huge plot to follow in this movie, but it's really just like living in this fucking world and watching every frame of animation for me that really just made it such a powerful experience.
I didn't see any like shots of it or anything like that. Is the animation style very much consistent with his prior films, like say Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away? Or does it have a different visual appeal to it?
I would say it's like largely the same visually, like from a distance. It has like a roughness to it that the other movies don't have, I would say. It's, I think, maybe his longest movie. I could be wrong about that, but it's long, and
I think it is his longest.
and it took forever to make. And I don't know if animation is extremely expensive and it's extremely time consuming, and I don't know if the roughness is a like a byproduct of a movie that was like being rushed in some way, you know what I mean? Like they were under pressure to produce something, or if it was like just part of the style that they were going for. So I don't know if it was like a necessity, but it's sketchy in a way. And in fact, I would say the story is kind of sketchy too. It feels like, I don't want to say like half baked, but it feels like he kind of dreams up this world, makes not a huge effort to kind of like fill you in on all the details or even like construct something that is like sound, but it allows you to kind of pour your own mind and your own feelings and your own dreams into it and kind of fill out the remaining space, if that makes sense. Like I'm using kind of like a metaphor to kind of make sense of this, because it's like, it's not, so I think I've complained on here about there's so many movies nowadays that kind of like they want to be about something and they want to say something, and they end up, they want to have like meaning, and they end up sort of limiting the meaning of what they are, because by doing that, because they become about one thing, there's not that kind of space for like different interpretations or different experiences. I found this movie to be like the antithesis of that. It reminded me, there's not really a meaning immediately when you watch the film. I think there's a lot of kind of like meanings that you could draw from it, and like reverberations and analysis that you could do on it. But for me, it really reminded me of like the giant, grand kind of fantasy movies that they used to make when we were kids in the 1980s, post Star Wars, where it was just like, one that came to mind was like the Neverending Story, where it's just like this huge world, and you can just kind of, and there's enough kind of emotional kind of like things there, because you're seeing a film by a visionary, that it's going to have these resonances that you can kind of put your own experiences or your own feelings or thoughts into it.
That's actually a great what do you call it?
Comparison.
It is comparison, because it does have that same feeling too, and it is like sort of one scene to the next where you meet new people, and it's sort of like that. But I just wanted to say that while you were saying that, it does have like sort of a cobbled together story in a way. It also feels incredibly personal, which I know like a lot has been made about how personal this movie was for him and how it's, you know, his tale or his, you know, his life story, but it felt like it to me, like more than any of his movies. And you know, I love his movies, obviously. You can't really not, but this one really, I just felt like, even though, like you said, it's a patchwork of story that's just like enriched by this incredible, you know, visual storytelling. It is like you feel the like want of the characters, and you feel like his, you know, story as he's going through it. You know, I really loved it. That was my number one movie of the year.
I'll just say I'll just really quick. I didn't know it was a personal story. I didn't get that from the story. I think that's totally interesting, but if you're not interested in that, like I think you get just as much out of it. But go ahead, Chris.
Yeah.
No, cool. I was just thinking about Miyazaki. We're talking about all these directors, like legendary directors that had movies out this year, many of which are up for awards. And Miyazaki being one of those. He's, what, 40 plus years of filmmaking? His first movies came out, what, like the early 80s, back to like, what, Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind or so? Where does this film, The Boy and the Heron, fall in the list of Miyazaki movies for you guys? Because you both have spoken
we
glowingly
talked
about
it.
this one.
We might have talked about it like separately from you because we didn't want to spoil it for you. But when I immediately saw it, I was like, "This is my number one Miyazaki movie." Like,
Wow.
it hit with a bullet. Like as soon as I got out, you know, that was a little bit of recency bias probably. Like, I'd have to watch it several more times to really place it, but it's definitely gonna land in the top 3. You know, for me.
Nice. What about you, Travis?
Yeah. I think it easily ranks amongst his best, which for me makes it one of the, you know, best animated movies of all time. Like he is probably one of my like top 5 directors ever, and yeah, I think this is his best. Is like totally. I don't think it's exaggerating at all. I think it really is uniquely special. I
So
think
not just
having-
animation directors, but top directors, period, right?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And but I'll just say, like, he has several other movies that are like some of my favorites ever. I think My Neighbor Totoro,
Yeah.
you could say was his best. Spirited Away. I think
Yeah,
Kiki's
that's
Delivery
the thing.
Service is in
Yeah.
the running. I think
It gets-
Nausicaa
it
Valley
gets
of the
up
Wind
to
is in the
that point
running.
where
Like,
it's like, how are you gonna be like, you know, comparing tens?
absolutely, exactly.
Yeah.
But this one was like it's such a great movie, and like really what I needed right now. Like there's so few movies being made like this right now that it just felt like so, you know, there weren't these kind of like trite, you know, any like quote unquote good animated movie nowadays, because I you know, have like a foot in that world weirdly, you know, like in my life, and I know you guys have like little kids, so we all kind of like know about those like kind of like
Right.
emotional cloying moments, you know, that they kind of force on you. You know, there's nothing like that in this movie. I mean, there's some kind of like family drama that stirs some emotion, but it's so it has so much more respect for the audience than that. So I don't know.
Yeah,
It's cool. It's good.
absolutely. It's great. Did you have a favorite movie this year, Travis?
Oh, easily The Boy and the Heron. I mean, not
Easily that
even
one?
not
Oh,
even
cool.
close. Yeah. I mean, the only other one
Yeah.
that I loved, really, in the end that I saw was, and I haven't seen a ton too, so take it with a grain of salt. But Oppenheimer, and I feel like that's like maybe my like 6th favorite, you know, Christopher Nolan movie. It's not like it's like his best in my
You can
opinion or
check the
anything like
record.
that. But yeah, it's like mid Christopher Nolan, but that still makes it like, you know, absolutely wonderful. But yeah, Boy and the Heron for me, probably my favorite in years.
Oppenheimer was your favorite movie that you saw, Chris, since you only saw
Oh
it?
yeah, definitely. I mean, you know me, I've said it many a time, but the quote biopic is just not my thing. I mean, I can
No.
respect a well-made movie, but this doesn't feel like that at all. I mean, it's got that kind of weirdness that you would maybe kind of get from an early Nolan movie, yet the performances were all just phenomenal. The sound was insane. I mean, I can't imagine not having watched this in an IMAX theater, you know, with that resonance and the richness of the sound. yeah, just an amazing film going experience. One I hadn't had in a long time, and looking forward to seeing it again. Although I probably won't be able to see it quite in the same way, you know. And with
Yeah.
you guys, after first time, you know, us being in the same
Yeah, yeah.
room
That
since
was
friggin'
fun,
what
yeah.
high
It's super
school.
fun.
So
It's
cool.
Super fun.
So cool. But yeah, overall, amazing movie. Love to see it again. Again, haven't seen enough of them, but I also really wished I'd seen Killers of the Flower Moon. Huge Scorsese fan, of course. I did watch Barbie.
Well, that
I
brings
liked
me
it.
to my number
It was
2 movie of the year.
Okay,
Killers of
okay,
the
yeah. Let's
Flower
talk
Moon.
about it. Let's talk
We
about it.
talk about it. Me and Travis had a long back and forth. We both loved it, I think. Travis was a little bit more, well, I'll let you speak to what you felt about it. But to me, it was like, I fucking went to the theater. It was like, I had this big day where I sort of landed this big gig and I was feeling sort of jazzed and energized. I'm like, I need to do something with this energy. And I haven't been going to the movies a lot either, and I was like, I'm gonna treat myself to a fucking 4-hour movie. You know, I'm gonna like take
4
hours
hours?
to myself. It's 3.5 hours, so like with
What?
trailers and whatever, it's a full day experience. And
Wow.
and so I was like, I'm just gonna fucking do it. And I'm like, I went and I sat down and I didn't get up to pee once. I was so just like enraptured in the movie, and mostly I was just sitting there thinking to myself like, fucking, how is Martin Scorsese? Obviously, he's so good, but how is he so good? Like, it kind of blows me away still every time I see a Martin Scorsese movie that he's as good as he is.
You know,
He's
I'm
never not surprising me about how good he is.
I have to admit something to you guys. I'm a bit of a hater. You probably don't know this. This probably
No
comes as a
shit.
shock, but I was in a bad mood one day, and I was like, I made myself laugh because I was like, I only like Martin Scorsese movies. Those are the only movies I even enjoy.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I just feel like he's made like 25 films, and they're all like so wonderful.
He's just
and like no one
the
else,
master.
no
Like,
one
it's
else can do it
nobody
like him.
compares.
Yeah, that's true. I think he's like the greatest living filmmaker. I think he's the best. I do think Killers of the Flower Moon is like extremely flawed. And I think that's such a lame thing to say, like extremely flawed, but it's like of any movie I've ever heard, of any great film that I've ever heard a tale about, no movie has had its main flaw engineered so purposefully into the body of the film, and then like
Which is the star.
which is the star of the movie. And you guys know the story, and everybody probably listening to this knows the story, but they wrote the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio as the FBI investigator guy, and he came on to do that role. And then they were like, but then it just turns into like a white savior guy coming in, the government coming in and saving the Indians and stuff like that. And they're like, you know, that's been done. It's not really historically how things have happened. What if we try to tell a story, you know, the story of these people from the point of view more of the, you know, the Osage people, and that, but having Leonardo DiCaprio still as somehow the central male character. So they made the main character of the movie the dopey husband of the woman who's getting poisoned and kind of exploited by like this like family of like white ranchers or whatever, and it works fine for most of the film until it doesn't. Basically, you know, there becomes a point where the movie hinges kind of emotionally on like their relationship as if it was worth anything more than just like money and stuff, and it kind of, in my mind, just falls apart. Having said that, I mean, amazing imagery, amazing performances, you know, amazing camera work. I don't know. It's a cool movie. There's a lot to get out of it. For a 3.5 hour movie that like flies by, the whole last half, the whole last half hour, I was kind of like rolling my eyes or like kind of like questioning like, what
See,
the hell
we
is going
talked about
on?
this already. To let the audience and Chris know, we talked about this
Spoiler
already.
alert,
And
sorry.
I completely disagreed with Travis's take on that. Not that I disagree with him having that take, because it's totally understandable. And Leo is making hammy big choices that it's totally understandable if they don't work, like for you as an audience member, because everybody, especially sitting there opposite Lily Gladstone and Robert De Niro, who are both playing it with like a naturalism that you don't see in movies ever. Like they both like are doing this performance. I mean, especially Lily Gladstone, where like she'll say something and you're like, oh, does she know? Does she know that they're filming right now? Like that was her, right? Like it's like there's no performance there. It's all her, and then she'll say something like, I just don't think we should do this to Leo, and he'll be like, but I want to. And it's like it's such a dramatic like disparity between their performances. Not that I think that he gave a bad performance. It's just so different and not grounded in reality.
The fact is, the
And-
movie wants you to. I mean, can I do a spoiler? Is that can we? I don't know how to talk about it without
Maybe-
doing it.
Yeah, okay.
But like the movie hinges kind of like emotionally. I mean, am I wrong, Ian, on buying that somehow Leonardo DiCaprio loves his wife so much even as he's poisoning her?
Yeah, I think
and
you are right about that. I think that that's not what the movie hinges on. I think that the movie hinges on the fact that we are supposed to be, he's the audience surrogate, and he doesn't see what's really happening. And so when he finally gets it is when we're supposed to finally get it, you know?
But
And
he
maybe
is
that
what's
doesn't, like,
happening.
translate-
He is what's happening, and it doesn't
exactly.
translate.
But that's the point, is that like he is what's happening the way that we are what's happening in Palestine right now,
No.
right? It's like
No,
yes,
absolutely
he's-
not, Ian. Absolutely not. We are. He is literally doing it. He is doing. There is.
But
like,
he's
there is-
doing it.
not passively. Not passively. He's
and
doing it for profit. He's doing it as like a hired goon, and he plays the
He's
role
doing it
as
for
as a
profit.
goon. I will
He's
never
doing it for profit,
identify
but
with
he's
with.
making-
I will never identify with a character who says yuck. I will never.
I get it, but I'm saying that like he's doing it for profit. He knows what he's doing, but in his mind, he's like, "This is what I'm doing, but I love this person." Like that's what he feels, you know. And then when he realizes that like he did never really love her, and that she never really like she was actually heartbroken by him because she actually let herself trust him, then it was like.
And I think I
Oh,
said
like,
this.
this is-
I think I said this already, Ian. Like, and I see you engineering that reading, and I think your thoughts are accurate. I don't think that's what's happening in the movie. You cannot tell me that like.
Maybe I did read the book, so maybe it's because I read the book
I
that I
can't-
like added more into it.
I can't
but
imagine
it's-
anyone watching the
yeah.
movie and being like. I remember when I was like, drinking that jug of moonshine and eating watermelon, and I had a
That's what
similar.
I'm not saying you should
like-
relate to him as his character. I'm saying that
He's
you
too
should relate to
evil
him
and
when-
too goofy. Like to have any kind of like, oh yeah, that's me. Like it just doesn't work. And again, the idea of what you're
Wait,
saying.
have both of you seen Dogville,
No, I haven't seen Dogville.
the movie?
See-
Dogville?
I like Lars, but I haven't seen
damn
that
it.
one.
Sorry,
I know.
and if
So
you're gonna say
there's
like
a
that's the story, like I love that, and I know basically the story of Dogville. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I won't spoil Dogville, but there is a moment like that in the movie. In that movie, I'll just bring it back to this one. And like I said, I did read the book. The book is very different, but also the same story, obviously. But I think it's hard to like not take that into the movie before you read, or having read it. But still, I just felt like I didn't relate to him as a character. I didn't relate to him like as their love story, like as any kind of real love story. I just felt like I related to her heartbreak in that moment, and then like his, like the moment when he finally realizes that like he even had the ability to do what he had been doing or something like that. I don't know. It's hard to explain
Again,
that.
I could care less what's going on in his pea brain. Like if there's a movie that shows a character complicit in the kind of thing that can, that you can sort of say, oh wow, if that guy's complicit, maybe I'm complicit. But like the most evil, like Scrooge McDuck, striped shirt, dog, mask wearing like goon. Like
boys.
being complicit in evil. I'm like, yeah, he is. I don't need to sit around for 3 hours to realize it. Like, and again,
Okay.
a great movie, but
Fair
there's
enough.
flawed.
One last thing I'll say about that movie, though, is that it feels incredible to me that, like, the last several movies of Martin Scorsese, with this one as the fucking candle on top of the cake, is how much he's just trying to take down like American myth, you know? Like he's really trying to just fucking cut America down to its knees. And I appreciate that so much as he's fucking 80 years old or however he is, that he's just like, I have this much fighting time left in me and I'm not pulling any punches anymore. I mean, even going back to like Wolf of Wall Street, which,
Yeah.
you know, we've had a lot of conversations about, and that like I came out of disliking and then have rewatched it like 5 times now and been like, oh, this is one of his masterpieces in a lot of ways. Like,
So-
not just as a comedy, but
So
like
did someone
as
tell
a,
you that it was a masterpiece, maybe? And was that person maybe right?
I
when
think
you
it
were
must have
maybe
been
not
Chris.
right?
I'm just kidding. It was Travis.
What?
All right, Travis is right sometimes. Okay.
No, it's just a great movie. And again, I think Leonardo DiCaprio is so wonderful in like, especially in comedic roles, and especially you know when he doesn't have to act too hard. But yeah, and he was honestly fine in this movie too for most of the film. But when he becomes like the emotional center, it kind of falls apart. And Lily Gladstone, as wonderful as she is kind of like missing in action for a long time in the movie. And then the story kind of falls on Leonardo DiCaprio's again
Right.
ridiculous pie stealing villain shoulders, and it is what it is. Similarly, I think I said this, but I think Oppenheimer kind of falls apart in its last act too, where it tries to.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
Go back
Okay,
to the
good. Okay,
last
good. I can't remember. It's
episode
been a
because
while, but
I feel the
yeah.
same way about Oppenheimer too, which
Yeah.
I loved every part of it, but it does like, you know, the middle chunk is where the excitement happens, and then you're kind of like, maybe you could have done this the first half.
yeah.
It's kind of
Right,
ironic
to
for a
the
Nolan
big
movie, right? Nolan normally hits you with that punch at the end. you know, or
Absolutely,
toward
yeah,
the-
that's true. He's somebody with really strong endings, yeah. As is Martin Scorsese, for that matter, you know, for the most part.
I thought the ending was powerful of Flowerman. Okay, what else we got? I mean, there's all these movies, and we're already 35 minutes or so into this recording.
Well, Chris, what do you think of? Well, what do you? I'm sorry, Ian. What do you have left on your list? You said you had top 5. That's 2.
I mean, I have a ton of movies, but I'll just keep talking about.
Just give us like 3 more.
Asteroid City is probably my number 3. Asteroid City, I fucking loved. I feel like Wes Anderson is in the peak of his career, and he's not getting any credit for it. Like, I feel like he's really just throwing like fucking fastballs right now with these incredible movies, and you know, he's kind of fallen into this niche of being like a cult director in a weird way.
Yeah.
And I mean, if this movie came out without his filmography, I feel like people would be blown away.
100%.
It's so good.
Yeah, and I feel like he's doing work right now to be like, you know, because people are just like, oh, it's like a Wes Anderson movie. Like, that's what you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
and he's like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is like real art that I'm doing here, people. And I feel like that
Yeah.
I watched those shorts on Netflix where he
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like deconstructs the sets, like, and constructs them in front of you.
Like, in
and
front
he's,
of the camera.
He's
It's
in
so
front of
good.
the camera to show you how he's doing it, and it's like insanely elaborate and insanely effective and beautiful. And it's like he's just stunting on him at this point. He's just like, look what I can do. Like, if you didn't get it from just like the visuals that I'm creating, this is how I do it, and it's like mathematical and artistic and just kind
meanwhile,
of
he's got,
stunning.
like, there's like the Wes Anderson filter on Instagram that's like a joke, and everybody's like,
Oh
"Oh,
my
you can make anything a
God.
Wes Anderson movie," and it pisses me off because I'm like, "That's not it. It's not
Yeah.
just color timing. Like, there's so much in these movies, and I get it. Like, there's a part of me that will have to acknowledge that like he can only make a Wes Anderson movie. Like, you know, he's not gonna like branch out and make Lawrence of Arabia or whatever. But nobody does it like he does. Like, Alfred Hitchcock could only make Alfred Hitchcock movies. Like, what the fuck is the deal? Just give it to him. He doesn't. Did you guys know he doesn't get any technical awards? Like, none of the like cinematography or art design or costumes or anything. Like, at least he should get those, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's such a master of that stuff.
Yeah, he should have gotten a lot of
Drives me
awards. Absolutely. I mean,
And,
he was
okay,
one
but
for there
that's
was like
not
a
really
10-year
talking about
period
this
where he was
movie.
one of the most influential directors alive, and he got not enough credit for sure.
Do you think that's
Yeah,
maybe
just to talk
because
about
when
this
people
movie. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, maybe do you think that's because he's too Wes Anderson for like the Academy Awards? And by that I mean
Absolutely.
too much of that director. Like, okay, it's a Wes Anderson movie,
He's
whatever.
too
We've seen them
distinct.
all, kind of a deal.
I think if he came out today, like you were saying, and it would be very different. You know what I mean? Like I think that Academy Awards are more primed to reward something like that. I mean, look at Everything
Well, look
Everywhere
at
All at
Paddington
Once.
2. Like
Yes,
Paddington 2
yes.
has this like reputation as like the masterpiece
Right.
that has never been fucking seen by infant eyes or whatever,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it's like it's just doing Wes Anderson. Like
Yeah.
it's not a bad movie, it's a good movie, but like just watch
Yeah.
a Wes Anderson movie. Like you'll
Yeah.
see it done better.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So I
So
don't know.
was Asteroid City then on your list of one of the better Wes Anderson movies in his filmography, or
It's
he's had a
honestly,
pretty-
it's such a unique movie that it's kind of hard for me to place it because it is him, like Travis said, like it's him kind of deconstructing himself in a way, and he's doing that a lot. Like he does it with these shorts, and I kind of got some of that from French Dispatch too, in a different way. But it's like he really, this one especially, there's sort of movies within movies in this one, and that's the stuff that works the least. I think me and Travis both kind of agreed about that.
No, no, no.
That,
No, that's not exactly what I had to say. But go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was just gonna say that like it doesn't. I shouldn't say it works the least either because I think that it works great, but it is a little bit like confusing in a way that you're kind of like, I don't know always that like when he's doing what he's doing, but because just to let you know, Chris, because you haven't seen it, that there's like the movie is essentially supposed to be a live video recording for like 50s TV, broadcast TV or something like that, but it's never really explained to you, so you never really know what you're watching. But then they'll cut to backstage with the actors that are putting on this performance and then cut back into the movie. But that part of it really works. I really appreciate it because that's the sort of thesis of the movie, is like, of the actual movie, is like, this is a show that we're putting on, like this is me like using the tools that I have to show you who I am. That's like what this movie is to me. And
it's
it's
also
only because of that sort of thing that he's doing, this little artifice where it's actors on screen playing actors. But yeah, go ahead.
But it's also how art is born of, like, out of, it's like movies don't have to be about something. Like it's also, you know what I mean? It's about like, we don't know where art comes from. We don't know why it looks like this. We don't know why we create what we create. We just do it. And I feel like that's an important thing to think about when you think about Wes Anderson's movies. And again, I think that's why he's kind of, what makes this movie like a commentary on his own filmmaking style. To me, but also like how, through all this artifice and through these kind of like ridiculous things and sets and like, again, like showing like the 50s television, and it's so stiff and so dated, but what can you get through that? Like what comes out of that? And the most amazing moment in the whole movie to me is like Jason Schwartzman as this like actor in this play who's kind of like having trouble kind of like getting inspired and staying in the character that he's supposed to inhabit, goes out onto a balcony, runs into Margot Robbie dressed as Queen Elizabeth. And there's a monologue by Margot Robbie where she's
Best
recalling,
performance of her career.
I mean, Margot Robbie rules, but Margot Robbie recalling, it's definitely the highlight of the film, I think. Margot Robbie recalling the scene that she and Jason Schwartzman did together that got cut out of the play, which is why she's not in that play with him, but she's on like a facing balcony, and she recites both sides of a conversation that they had in the play, just only her talking, dressed as Queen Elizabeth in front of like clearly like a cardboard set of like New York City in the 50s. And I swear to God, if you don't cry with genuine like emotion from that scene, it is mind-boggling, because you're like, how is he doing this? And he's
been able to sort of pull in these moments like that, like starting with Grand Budapest Hotel, like where he can sort of
I think he's always kind of done that though. He's just getting more precise. His movies are getting a little sillier and a little fluffier, and then he still is able to laser focus that emotion, those moments, because those were. I mean, there's huge emotional moments in Royal Tenenbaums and in Rushmore and in Bottle Rocket, and now
Bottle
it's
Rocket.
like these movies are like almost like cartoons, and yet like in Grand Budapest Hotel, that moment where Ray Fiennes is yelling at Zero, and then he's like, "I'm actually a refugee from a war and my family's all dead," and it's like, holy shit, and the kind of reality of the situation like sinks in. And again, they're playing it like as if they're acting in like a 1940s movie, so it's so unrealistic and yet touches something deep inside you. Like he is becoming more like a scientist, able to like find the patterns in the crystals that are like born out of these like minerals of emotion deep within you, and then like show you the artifice that's like 100 feet away and be like, look at this pattern, and it breaks something inside of you, and you're like, oh my god. I think he's the only person who can do that, and he's like such a rare artist.
And I really do. If you guys haven't watched the Netflix, I know Travis, you have. I don't know if you have, Chris, but the Netflix shorts, they are so worthwhile.
Like the Henry Sugar and the Ray Fiennes one?
Henry Sugar, Ratcatcher, they all have the same cast. Ray Fiennes is in them, and yeah, there's a few of them. Poison, I think it's called actually, and they are fucking great. It really is like if you go back to our Buster Scruggs episode where you're like, Coen Brothers just sort of like showing you what they can do with just 12 minutes or whatever at a time for a genre. Like that's what this feels like. It's really just him like flexing.
Yes.
Flexing.
Yeah, and those to me feel more like exercises, and I don't know that I got as much out of them, but they are like wildly impressive if you just want to like remind yourself like, oh yeah, like there's a lot of work that goes into that stuff, his work,
Yeah.
Cool. So that's 3.
Shit. Okay, well, the other ones I have less to say about. The Holdovers. Let's talk about the Holdovers. Neither of you have seen it?
I saw it.
I'm not even
you
familiar.
did see it.
Yeah,
That's right.
I'm
You
not
saw it.
sure.
So it's Paul Giamatti plays a, grump in the 70s. It's whatever, I don't know what you call it. But it's a Hal Ashby movie, essentially, that's like made right now. And I thought it was great. The thing that I actually read this online, and it really, I'm going to steal it. I don't even remember who I said it, but they're like, The Holdovers is hilarious because if it would have come out in 1996, everybody would have been like, that's a great airplane movie. You know what I mean? It's such like a
I see
simple
what you're saying,
drama.
yeah.
Like there's no like stakes to it. It's really like all about performance. It's all about just like, mood. Basically nothing more to say about it except for that like it does speak to what I was saying at the beginning of this talk, that like that's kind of, it feels like what is exciting audiences right now is like this sort of return to just like character and mood,
Who directed it again?
Alexander Payne.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, this is just me being a Paul Giamatti like grump, but I felt like it was both try hard at being modest. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? It was like trying so hard to do so little, like purposefully, and that kind of like rubbed me the wrong way weirdly, but there are great performances in it. It is beautiful. And the guy who wrote some episodes of The Adventures of Pete and Pete, so I'm very happy for his success.
Nice.
Yeah.
Special
Nice.
Oscar.
Yeah, exactly. In my heart, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to say about it. It's really is like, I would suggest watching it on a plane. It's that kind of movie.
Absolutely. If you like Paul Giamatti, like you got to see it. It's just another great Paul Giamatti performance. So, number 5.
I mean, let's see. I mean, Oppenheimer would be on there, but I will forego that one because we've talked about it, and I'll say that I really did love May December. It's another movie that has sort of shrunken like since I've watched it, and especially since I haven't really talked about it with that many people because I don't know anybody who's seen it really. But Todd Haynes, another great filmmaker along the sort of Alexander Payne sort of scale to me that like delivers. And this one, I feel like him and Julianne Moore together are just a fucking team that really belong together. You know, they were like made for each other. And she's so good in this. She's really like she's not in it as much as you think she is, like from the marketing. But she when they bring her out, it's like Jaws. Like you know what I mean? It's like every time she comes on screen, you're like, God damn. And like all of the other performances, Natalie Portman goes huge with her performance and nails it. Like it's really a shocking performance for her because she really is like doing like a half mimic of Julianne Moore and also like a sort of feisty young ingenue, sort of like past her prime a little bit too. It's a really interesting performance from her. But then every person that they meet in this town that it takes place in, especially the lead sort of male character, are really reserved and sort of small performances. And I don't know, it just felt like a great Todd Haynes movie. So highly recommend.
Love Todd Haynes, brilliant filmmaker. I don't even love his movies necessarily. Like they're all very thorny and very weird and very fascinating. And I'm always down for whatever he does, even though like there's not one of his movies where I'm like, oh, I love that movie. Like they're all just kind of like, oh yeah, that movie's crazy.
Yeah. Kind of amazing. I've never seen a Todd Haynes movie. I've wanted to see I'm Not There. I've just heard so many amazing things about it, or at least the idea of multiple different well-known actors playing Bob Dylan, including Kate Blanchett, you know? Is Heath Ledger in that
Heath
one?
Ledger and Christian Bale, two Batman.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
two
Crazy.
Dark Knight people.
Yeah. Although they never call him Bob Dylan, right, in the movie.
They don't, yeah. That's a great movie, though. I love that movie. I agree with you, Travis. There's not like a Todd Haynes movie that's like the best Todd Haynes movie, and this one is campy as shit. Like, there's no part of me that's like, you know, would recommend this to most people. I should say I should like caveat that because it's very campy. Like, you almost have to enjoy it because he's kind of, I don't know. I mean, this isn't a spoiler. Like, I don't think they've really been talking about what the plot is that much, but it's about like a woman who sleeps with a 14-year-old and then ends up marrying him, like staying with him and marrying him. And now they live in this little town and he's, you know, 35 and she's 60 or whatever. And Natalie Portman is going to play her in essentially like a Lifetime movie. So she comes to study her. And it's fucking great. Like, and that's prime for Alexander Payne because he sees like the Lifetime in it, like the Lifetime movie in it. And he sees the like
You mean the Todd Haynes?
Todd Haynes. Is that what I said?
Close enough.
Yeah. He, he sees like that campy Lifetime movie that's in this movie, but he also sees, he somehow films Julianne Moore's character, who is a pedophile, you know, like who stayed with her, you know, abused
Victim.
child.
Yeah.
Her victim. And he somehow like manages to show her without compassion, but while showing her as a real character. Like, it's really interesting to me, the way that he pulled it off. So yeah, those are my favorite movies of the year.
I love Julianne Moore too. All second Ian's recommendation of her performance in that, even though I haven't seen the movie. She's so good. Like, I just like, there's certain actors you just like, you know, you can't go wrong with. In fact, I'm even tempted. My wife is a big swimmer, and she like has read multiple she's read multiple swimming like books and stuff by these like women who have swum like the English Channel and stuff like that. So she's like a fan of female swimmers. Somehow we have not seen Naiad. I mean, I know why, but because I basically have no interest in it as a film. But it's got those
all of the water.
It's got those
in
good
that movie
actresses.
is CGI.
Oh Jesus Christ! Are you serious?
They CGI'd all the water.
That's insane, dude.
It's
That's so
insane.
insane. I mean, I'm not expecting
So,
her
like,
to like
when-
swim the channel, but like, come on.
When she comes out and she's wet, it's CGI water on her face.
See, this is why,
It's
like,
insane.
yeah,
We can't have nice
Yeah.
things.
Anyway,
you know, also,
didn't you see Travis or Chris? Sorry, didn't you see one of the Marvel movies too? Doctor Strange, or was that last year?
I saw the Sam Raimi Doctor Strange.
I think
guess
that was the
that
year
was
before.
2
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah, it was a couple years ago.
I was looking. Can I just list this list of terrible blockbusters that came out this year?
Yes.
You know,
Sure.
terrible on a scale. Some of them are better than others.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones 5, Ant-Man Quantumania, Little Mermaid, Aquaman 2, The Marvels, Fast X, Blue Beetle, The Flash, Transformers Rise of the Beast, Mission Impossible 7, Guardians 3, The Creator, and Elemental. I mean, these are like just what a bunch of zeros, you know? Like even like the franchises there that I like, those movies came and went. Like nobody fucking gave a shit about them.
Absolutely zero cultural kind of like footprint. Yeah.
Impact.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Whereas these movies, Air, Tetris,
Oh, God.
Blackberry, Hot Cheetos, Barbie, these are all movies.
Oh, no. Oh,
all
no.
5 of those came out this year, and they're all these like sort of product
Products.
underdog movies.
Oh,
that
God.
Well, some of
yeah, I
these,
don't know about that.
is it? I honestly am not as prolific with my Academy Awards history as some of you guys. This seems like a good number in a world of big budget movies, right? Where it seems like the only things getting funded are those with a massive $100 million plus budget, or way more in many cases. Did we see kind of a rebirth of maybe the mid budget movie?
It kind of
Yeah,
sounds.
that's what I
we
think.
got
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what it feels like.
You're right.
It feels like that's going to
so.
be the takeaway from this year. I don't know that it necessarily like happened. I guess it did happen a little bit this year. But aside from the ones that we talked about, some great sort of mid-budget movies came out this year that were less, important to me. Blackberry was good, it was fine. It wasn't for me, but I get why people love that one. But They Cloned Tyrone, I thought was fun, but didn't work all the way, I thought
What was it called?
They Cloned Tyrone.
Oh,
Have you not heard of
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jamie
yeah.
Foxx. I thought that
looked
was
weird.
like kind of a weird movie that, worked for a while and didn't exactly work. Megan, was a huge hit. That was,
Yeah.
horror always kind of
Yeah.
has that, but there's more past lives. Obviously, the world loved No Hard Feelings. Me and Travis talked about that movie. Like these movies that sort of did make money and did like well that. And probably made a bigger return than any of the blockbusters did,
Yeah.
That's important, and I think that is going to be a takeaway, especially as they're like pulling, Batgirl from HBO. Is like they're like dropping movies,
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
they are going to start making more mid-budget movies again.
I like seeing that. I mean, I think we lost a lot in terms of when streaming became the dominant platform. I mean, obviously a movie could bomb at the box office, do horribly, but it could recoup itself in DVD sales or like rentals and things like that. But when that whole industry died, you're basically banking on the vast majority of your budget getting made back at the box office, right? Then it goes to streaming and it's a sunk cost because you're already just subscribed to HBO Max or Amazon Prime or Netflix and whatnot. So, I think it feels like those mid-budget movies they're swinging and too much of a roll of the dice to go watch Past Lives or I don't know, The Zone of Interest or something like that. Where, but if you can actually turn a profit, not having to make a crazy expensive movie. And again, I think people's appetites, to your point, man, we're sick of the same action-oriented, mindless Marvel movie. Like how many times can we tread on this dead horse, before it, like, how much blood can we squeeze out of this stone before it's like, completely dry? So
Yeah.
I love to see it.
Well, I remember
Great point. Yeah.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny came out the same week same month as Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. These titles are getting longer too, which is very funny. But they have the same set piece. It's like they literally are like, there's a set piece where they're going through fucking Jakarta or wherever they are on like putt-putts, and both movies have it. And it's
Weird.
like, what are we doing here? Like, you guys, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway. What movie do you want? And you want to talk about any other movies, Travis?
I do. I want to talk about Maestro.
Okay, I want to talk about Maestro too.
I don't really want to talk about it. I just want to it was just so funny because I feel like we're just like talking around it, like mid-budget movie, like Oscar,
Right,
like
what are you talking
biopics, I don't
Yeah.
know. I have zero interest in seeing it, even though
I saw it.
How was it?
Can I tell you? It sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not for me. I'm sure it's great if you're into it, but like I have found, and I'll put my flag in this, hill, that I really can love Bradley Cooper as an actor, but I really dislike him as a filmmaker. I think that
Sure.
like he somehow manages to be so funny when he's an actor, like even in dramas, he's like a very funny actor.
Absolutely.
And he has no fucking humor in his movies that he directs.
Yeah.
It's like he just completely loses that part of him.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And to me, that's like so important, obviously. I mean, it is to everybody, whether they know it or not, But like, this movie just it has that same thing as I hated the Star is Born that he made too. And it's the same thing of like such earnestness and such like, we're fucking doing this, just like reeks of fucking sentimentality that just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, but they didn't talk in like SNL caliber mid-Atlantic accents in A Star is Born. So I think
That's
that
true.
has
They
an
definitely
edge
did
up.
in this.
Jesus Christ.
And I shouldn't say that he's bad. Like, there's parts of it that are very well made, and like he is a great actor. Like, you can't even deny it. Like, and Carey Mulligan's a great actor too. It's just not interesting to me. Like, it's just like from the moment that it starts, and it's like the gun on the table is that he's in bed with another man, and then he goes to meet his wife or whatever. It's like, okay, here we go, and it's the movie that you think it's gonna be.
I also
Past
wanted to
Lives
talk
is another
about
one
past
we can talk about a
lives.
little
Yeah. Or as I like to call it, boring lives. Yeah, Past Lives sucks. I saw it. I couldn't even make it to the end. It was just too bad. I heard one critic that I don't really have a lot of respect for say something about like the performances were human though. Like they were like very human characters. I disagree. I felt like everything was like so shorthand and so sort of hollow. Like they weren't characters. They were just like sort of like the faintest kind of like outlines of human beings, and that there was no moment in the film that felt surprising or interesting to me. And what I did like about the movie, because I do feel like I get some of the love for it. I like how it was filmed, kind of like unlike Alexander Payne's film. I felt like this filmmaker, it was their first movie, had kind of like I felt like I could feel them reaching out and saying, okay, I know I can like nail this shot. I know I can nail this transition to this scene and stuff like that. And I liked how it was made. I liked the construction of it. It was a small movie. It was a modest film. To be frank, I don't think I would hate it as much as if it wasn't like, if people weren't like gushing over it constantly. Right. But to me, like, there are zero good scenes in that film. It's just like one boring kind of like expository moment after another. And it's just like, then this happens, then this happens. Yeah, I kind of liked the opening shot too. Again, there were kind of some cool ideas about how it was kind of put together. Do you know what I'm talking about, Ian? That kind of zoom in shot
too, right?
Technically,
I did. I saw it on an airplane, sort of. I kind of technically saw it, yeah. But
Ian,
had a different experience.
I'm just joking about not respecting your opinion. You were absolutely. Most people I know who saw it liked it. In fact, I saw it on the recommendation of like multiple people, and I wouldn't have watched it if it didn't have if it wasn't drawing me to it in some ways. There were definitely some appealing things about it, but in the end, I hated
just
it.
For the audience listening, whoever is listening, I did like it, and I actually, I think when I came to you guys with my opinion on it, I ended up having to defend it a little bit because both of you thought it was so boring. But I liked it with a caveat. Like, I liked it because, like I said about The Holdovers, I was like, it was a great plane movie. Like, I watched it on a plane on the way to New Orleans in October, and I was like, just kind of sucked in and into their sort of story. And I was like, I didn't cry. I wasn't like moved to fucking emote in really any way, but I did just like get sucked into the story. And so I was like, I appreciate that this movie did that, but it wasn't like, it doesn't make my top 10. Like, I thought it was, kind of fine.
The story of an internet stalker.
No,
I watched it with my wife, and she was like,
there.
what I was like, I didn't know how she was kind of like vibing with the movie because we were both kind of just sitting there silently, and then she was like, when the guy came on, like when they finally met up in person, she was like, Jesus Christ, that guy's so creepy. I was just like, okay, thank you. I think we're like she had a stronger reaction to him than I did. I thought he was just kind of wooden, but there were like funny moments in the movie. I think the movie made me laugh out loud like multiple times, but I still couldn't get.
See,
through
I
it.
think that it was, at its best, it was sort of, I mean, for me, it was like telling a realistic how people are dealing with trying to be monogamous right now. Or like, I mean, this isn't for me, but like people who are single out there right now, like are all with the world at your fucking fingertips, and everybody like can connect with somebody 4,000 miles away and have this sort of connection to them that they don't let die because they're still in their lives and stuff like that. And that is a like very real part of modern dating, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that was like a important sort of moment to have, as just have a movie about like, how do we say like, this is a beautiful thing, but not for this life? You know, like how do we say like, this could have existed, it can exist in another life, but like, this is my life actually, not this like screen life that I've sort of become attached to in a way, you know? And that's what it felt like to me, was like, oh, she's having this like very real attachment to this person she knew as a kid. But when it gets in the way of the actual physical attachment that she has with the person in her life is when you're like, oh, you have to take stock of like what's real and what's not. Like there are a billion people that you could talk to at any given moment if you chose to. And she chose like, you know, spoiler alert, she's like, no, like that was beautiful that I had that connection with him. But like, that's a different life. This is the actual life that I've got. And I appreciate it for that.
Again, a movie about that sounds good to me. That's not the movie that I saw. Like there was nothing beautiful about it. It was just like she got internet stalked and she was kind of into it, and then the movie ended because I turned it off.
But she thought about him the whole time too. I mean, she was texting with him, you know, waking up to be on his hours, you know, like it was like her, you know, not once she was with her husband or whatever, but like
You're
for
literally
years
like
she was sort of,
Ian. They
doing
literally
the same
got up
thing
at
again.
different hours and texted each other. Like that is the movie. You're watching people literally get up and go on their computer.
okay,
and talk
so
to
it
each other.
doesn't work as, like, a
sucks.
movie.
They don't say it. They don't say anything out loud about their feelings, and you don't see it in the performances. Period. The cinematography
All
is
right.
fine. On no level did it succeed.
that's fine. It's
correct
it's
one.
a fine movie. Okay. Oh, another movie that none of us saw, I don't think, that I'm really bummed I haven't seen is Beau is Afraid, because that's another like sort of big take from a director that I follow a lot. You guys didn't
Yeah.
see that, right?
No,
Which
I
one?
do.
Beau
Beau is afraid.
Oh
Ari Aster.
no, I love Ari Aster too. I never got to see that,
I
but
have some closing statements I'd like to make, and I do talk a little bit about Ari Aster. We don't have to do it now, but if you guys are ready to wind down, I think it's
Yeah, we might as well.
getting late.
Yeah.
About time to wrap this whole charade up. So, okay, shall I talk? Basically, I
please.
wanted to give like a state of cinema address, because the way I see movies right now, and Ian, your observation that, you know, all blockbuster movies basically have gone down in smoke this past year is like giving me strength right now. It's giving me it's very heartening, you know, to think about that. And even, you know, the success of movies that I like didn't like Past Lives even, is kind of like, well, you know, maybe that is a good sign, you know. So that's really nice to think about. I find right now that I have like two big problems with movies in my life. One is something like I would call like the memification of movies, and I feel like this happens a lot in television too. But it's something that I feel like I noticed in like horror movies. There was this movement starting with a movie I love, It Follows, where it was like this super minimalist kind of like, you're taking a story that you've seen in like other horror movies and you're like boiling it down to its essence, and then kind of like delivering that and just kind of like seeing what's left if you take out all the kind of like the fluff or something, you know what I mean? And so you get this kind of like weird streamlined kind of like art damaged kind of thing that kind of makes you see it anew or something like that. I feel like all these movies that came after that, The Witch and Hereditary, were kind of similar, where it's like, I've seen this movie before, but we're seeing it again, like in this kind of like bare bones way that makes it kind of more powerful again, you know? And with these movies, there's often like no twist. It kind of just sets up the pieces and just watches them fall. And it sort of, I don't know, there's a feeling in the construction of it and in that kind of story element, like, we've seen everything. We know how this is going to end. It's not going to end good. But I for a while, I thought that was kind of an interesting development in movies. Now I feel like all movies are like, or a lot of movies, and I would put kind of past lives in this genre of just kind of like minimal to the point of like no humanity. And you can watch a movie and you can pull a quote, or you can pull a still, or you can pull a GIF or GIF, and like you can be like, oh my god, that's me, this is like me. And there's no, you know, I've watched so many movies where there's just no surprise, and there's no scene that really like takes your breath away. And I really feel like there's this development of like everything's been smoothed out and sanded down and maybe consciously built around like memeable moments. And a movie that sticks out to me like this is a movie like Saltburn, which I did not see, but
I saw it.
Did you like it?
No.
So it's just like it's just like a gifable kind of like remake
so
of
exactly
Talented
what
Mr.
you're talking
Ripley.
about.
And it's
Yeah.
just like, it just kind of makes me furious. And to be honest, I kind of felt Midsommar was kind of like, when I saw that movie, I was like, for the first like 15 minutes, I was like, oh my God, this is so powerful. Where's it going to go? And by the halfway through, when people are saying things like, maybe I've already said this on this podcast, but Chidi from The Good Place is like, what happened to Joe or whatever? Joe wouldn't just leave without telling us. And it's like literally just like the most cliched stuff I've seen in a million films. And we're just going to watch it kind of play out. And I just feel like, is cinema dead when I watch movies like this? And that's basically it. It's just like movies with no surprises, no shock. Everything is abstracted into like Yas Queen moments, and it's disappointing. And even like a movie like The Northman, which I thought was pretty radical in the way that it was like
Yeah,
made.
you liked The Northman more than me. And
I liked it
Chris
a
did.
lot, but it's still, by the end of the story, you're like, I've seen this story before. I know how it's going to end.
Mm-hmm.
It's told in I would say like a pretty shockingly different way. And that can't be all that we have left. You know what I mean? To say with cinema.
Well, I think we did, list the, Boy and the Heron and Asteroid City, which they aren't that to me. Like, they
Right, no,
are
they're not. They're not.
about
Absolutely.
that. And
No,
either is Killers of the Flower Moon. No matter
No.
your problems with it, it's
Absolutely.
not that. Like, it is-
Absolutely.
yeah.
I don't
so,
think it's
I wanna
impossible
say-
to tell powerful stories in cinema. I'm just saying like my problem with movies themselves. And then my other problem is like movie culture. And this is really not about movies, it's about like the internet. But I think I mentioned when we were watching Dune that I thought the reactions to that movie and the comments around that movie were so kind of like one-dimensional and like weirdly memey. And also in a weird way, it was kind of like you either get on board with like Dune is like the like this rad movie because it's like worms being dudes or whatever. Like, there's just like these weird meme kind of things that people say, and then it gets repeated like it's like a brain virus. And then it's like, and if you're not on board with that, we're like, well, I had a problem with like the pacing. It's like you don't get it. You know what I mean? It's like movies become like this weird, almost like the way that like politics is kind of like choose one of these like three different like styles of politics, where it becomes this aesthetic thing, like a way to dress your avatar online, like that's your politics. And if you don't speak this kind of in language, like okay groomer, or or whatever, then you're not on that team. Like, you know what I mean? It's like this weird simplified, like literally purposely dumbed down way of going through the world. And it's like so sad that it's like
speaking to me right now. I just tried to make this point to Angela actually, and I failed mostly because I couldn't make the point, and I won't be able to make the point right now. But
Share a Giphy of
and
me
this is going to open
making a point,
another.
and then-
This is going to make another can of worms. But my theory on why Taylor Swift is the like largest performer that's ever appeared on in the culture, why she has like a bigger fan base and sells more tickets and anything than like anybody that's ever existed, is like the Amazon or Netflixification of culture. It's literally like we've decided like we're not going to buy our stuff at stores anymore. We're just going to go to Amazon. And in the same way, I feel like we're like, not we, but like culture in general is like, that's our rock star, right? Like, we're just going to pick one, like we're just going to throw all like, just like we're going to be like, I'm not going to buy my fucking sheets at Target. People who don't listen to music are like with music with her,
Yeah.
where they're just like, I'll
and
put
the-
on Taylor Swift. And it's the same thing with movies where it's like,
But don't you feel like it's
oh no,
sort of
that's
like-
our movie.
But don't you
That's
feel like
our
it's sort
sci-fi
of like?
epic.
But I think an important element of that is not just that like it's a pre-made pop star that you can like get from a vending machine, which we've always had. But it's like more than
Exactly.
ever, it feels like the cultural product, like the music itself, is secondary to saying I culturally identify with this artist. It's like Owen Wilson in Zoolander. It's like I don't listen to the music, but the fact that he's making it, I respect that. It's like
Yeah, I
like
respect,
the,
yeah.
the actual piece of art is not being engaged with. It's just like you get you say the meme saying, and then you like share the like all the memes from the film,
Yeah.
and then you're a fan of it.
I mean, talk
and that,
about an
and that's your
artist who's,
cultural
like,
identity. It's
All
just-
about the gifts. You know what I mean? Like it's Taylor Swift. It is the same idea. Anyway, that was a tangent, but
And there's
I
all these-
agree with you. And it
Yeah, and
is
there's,
like
like-
the same thing with Dune being. And again, I haven't seen Dune 2 yet. By all accounts, it's even better than Dune 1. But it is the thing where like culture has decided this is our auteur sci-fi epic, and
Yes.
anything you say against it is you don't get it,
You don't get it.
Where
exactly.
it's like,
And it just feels like the discourse is like so flattened, and it's like all people can say is shit that they hear on podcasts and like little memes that they pick up. And it really, I don't know if you've ever read that book, Snow Crash, but like it's been, there's like this. I don't even know how to explain the story, but basically there's these like stone tablets with like ancient cuneiform expressions on them, and if you read them, it like reprograms your brain. And it's just like, don't read the things online. Like, don't read these tablets because, yeah, it's just like it's a brain virus, and I feel like everyone has it, but me is something I've noticed. No, you get what I'm trying to say.
I do. I don't know. But
And I just feel like, and that's
do
why I
feel
love
like-
Boy and the Heron. It just like you can't
Yeah.
interact with it that way, and I love that about it. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe you can pull a gif of some food being made from it, and that's it. But it's it's really bigger than all that stuff, and that's what I love about it.
I do have sort of high hopes for like the next year of movies, sort of based on what we've been seeing. Like even No Hard Feelings and Bottoms, like these sort of comedies that got released that like they weren't great, they were fine, but like I just love that they are getting made again, and maybe it'll make way for more getting made, because I like both of those. Okay.
But I think Bottoms was fine too. Chris, you got to give a
Okay,
closing
well,
thought. You got to give a closing
Yeah,
monologue.
Chris, you got to give us something.
Movies. No, I'm making a resolved commitment to go to more movies this year. I've already gone to more movies at this point in the year than I had probably through the last half of the last year. So I'm getting back in touch with my roots. I want to go see movies again. I want to get back in the theater. Just get back in. Just the fact that so many of my favorite directors made movies this last year. I mean, Yorgos Lanthimos had to go see. I didn't love the movie Poor Things, but I'm glad that he made it. It's great seeing again Martin Scorsese. I like seeing Jonathan Glazer. We had people like, I do like Robert Eggers. I do like Ari Aster. I'd like to go actually see some more of these movies in the theater. So I'm excited about what the next year holds. I'll probably end up seeing some bad movies. I'll probably watch a lot of kids' movies. Kung Fu Panda's out. The kids don't know that's coming out next week, but we're going to go peep that, I'm sure. And yeah, just kind of looking forward to getting back into the swing of things. This last year was a bit of a very big shakeup in my life. So excited to see what 2024 has in store for the movie side of my life.
Awesome. Maybe we'll even do another final episode of Auteur Detour. Who knows?
I think we're just going to keep coming back. I mean, we probably should cover Drive Away Dots if any of us decides to see
No,
it.
I think we should. Actually, I would love to go see that with you guys, just for
Yeah.
fun, but I don't want to do a podcast about it.
So I guess we won't do that. But we should record again someday. I mean, I love you guys. I love this podcast, and we will
Fuck
do
yeah,
something
man.
again someday.
I love you guys
Definitely.
too.
Let's
It
hope
was really
Forum comes out
fun,
with another one.
but we're never going to do this again.
How dare you?
It's been real.
Hey, this was fun, guys. I'll see you all next time.
Yes.
Bye.
Yep. All right. Maybe we have to say it like this. Bye.
Bye.
Jenny.
Is that better?
Jenny and I are going down every year starting in 2023 and writing basically our favorite movie of the year down. And in some cases we have like runners up and stuff like that, but it's been pretty fun. We got down to, I think we're on like 1999 now.
Oh,
And
awesome.
yeah, I
Nice.
think we're going to go down to like the beginning of cinema. See how far we can get before we like don't have anything good to put on the list.
Sweet.
But we love old movies, so you know we could go far. Ian, I'm sorry you have to edit this so much, but yeah, it was fun.
Super fun. We'll talk again soon, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Auteur Detour.